Hello, and welcome to the Midnight Deep. I'm your host, Wade Hadley. Tonight, we're exploring a profound connection between two places of darkness. Above us, the winter solstice brings the longest night of the year, when our hemisphere tilts furthest from the sun. Below us, in the deepest trenches of the ocean, darkness reigns eternal, where sunlight has never penetrated in millions of years. As we mark the shortest day on the surface, we'll descend into depths where the concept of day has no meaning at all. We'll discover how life adapts to these realms of perpetual night, how pressure and cold shape alien worlds right here on Earth, and how the mysteries of the deep mirror the mysteries of our celestial mechanics. From bioluminescent creatures that create their own starlight to the strange physics that govern both solstice and seafloor, this journey will take us to the edge of darkness itself. If you enjoy these explorations into the hidden corners of our world, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. It helps us continue bringing you these deep dives into science and nature. And I'm curious, where in the world are you watching from tonight? Are you experiencing your longest night, or are you in the southern hemisphere welcoming longer days? Let me know in the comments below. Let's dive in. The winter solstice occurs when Earth's axial tilt reaches its maximum angle away from the sun, 23.5 degrees, creating the shortest period of daylight for the northern hemisphere. This astronomical event has been observed by humans for thousands of years. Ancient monuments like Stonehenge and Newgrange were constructed with precise alignments to capture the solstice sunrise, demonstrating how deeply this celestial moment affected our ancestors. The physics behind the solstice is elegantly simple yet profound. Earth's axis remains pointed in the same direction as our planet orbits the sun, like a spinning top tilted on a table. When the North Pole leans furthest from the sun, typically around December 21st or 22nd, the northern hemisphere receives sunlight at its shallowest angle. The sun appears to trace its lowest arc across the sky, rising and setting at its southernmost points on the horizon. For those at extreme northern latitudes, the solstice brings polar night, a period when the sun doesn't rise at all. In Barrow, Alaska, the sun sets in mid-November and doesn't appear again until late January. Residents experience over 60 days of continuous darkness, though twilight provides some illumination during midday hours. Think of it like living inside a dome where the lights are permanently dimmed but never quite turned off completely. The duration of daylight varies dramatically with latitude. At the equator, day and night remain roughly equal year-round, each lasting about 12 hours. Move to London at 51 degrees north, and the winter solstice brings only about 7 hours and 49 minutes of daylight. Travel to Norway at 69 degrees north, and the sun doesn't rise above the horizon at all during the solstice period. The mathematics of spherical geometry dictate these differences, creating a gradient of darkness that stretches from pole to equator. Interestingly, the earliest sunset doesn't occur on the solstice itself. Due to Earth's elliptical orbit and the equation of time, the earliest sunset happens in early December for northern latitudes, while the latest sunrise occurs in early January. The solstice represents the day with the least total sunlight, but not necessarily the extremes of sunrise or sunset timing. This quirk of orbital mechanics often surprises people who assume the solstice marks all solar extremes. The temperature lag phenomenon means the coldest weather typically arrives weeks after the solstice, even as days begin lengthening. Oceans and land masses take time to release stored heat, like a thermal battery slowly discharging. This is why January and February are often colder than December in the northern hemisphere, despite receiving more sunlight. The solstice marks an astronomical turning point, but the climate responds on a delayed schedule, governed by the thermal inertia of Earth's surface and atmosphere. As we prepare to descend into the ocean's depths, it's worth noting that temperature stability increases dramatically underwater, where seasonal changes barely register. The ocean is divided into distinct zones based on light penetration and depth, each with unique characteristics and inhabitants. The sunlit surface layer, called the epipelagic or euphotic zone, extends from the surface down to approximately 200 meters. Here, sufficient sunlight penetrates to allow photosynthesis, creating the foundation of the marine food web. Phytoplankton flourish in these illuminated waters, producing roughly half of Earth's oxygen while feeding countless species. Below this lies the mesopelagic or twilight zone, stretching from 200 to 1,000 meters deep. Sunlight here dims to a faint blue glow, too weak for photosynthesis but enough for creatures to detect shadows and silhouettes. Many animals in this zone exhibit vertical migration, ascending toward the surface at night to feed and descending during day to avoid predators. This daily movement represents the largest migration of biomass on Earth, involving billions of tons of marine life. The bathypelagic or midnight zone extends from 1,000 to 4,000 meters. Here, absolute darkness reigns except for bioluminescence produced by the organisms themselves. Pressure reaches over 400 times that of sea level, equivalent to having an elephant balanced on your thumbnail. Water temperature hovers just above freezing, typically between 2 and 4 degrees Celsius. The human body, accustomed to 1 atmosphere of pressure, would be crushed instantly at these depths without protection. Deeper still lies the abyssopelagic zone, from 4,000 to 6,000 meters, where conditions become even more extreme. The temperature remains consistently cold, and the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of depth. At 6,000 meters, the pressure exceeds 600 atmospheres. To put this in perspective, it's like having the weight of a large passenger jet pressing down on every square inch of surface area. Specialized submersibles require titanium spheres with walls several inches thick to withstand these forces. The deepest zone, the hadal zone, includes ocean trenches that plunge beyond 6,000 meters. Named after Hades, the Greek underworld, these trenches represent less than 0.2% of the ocean floor, yet reach depths exceeding 11,000 meters. The Mariana Trench's Challenger Deep, the deepest known point on Earth, descends to approximately 10,920 meters. At this depth, pressure exceeds 1,000 atmospheres, or about 16,000 pounds per square inch. The physics of pressure at depth follows a straightforward principle. Water is relatively incompressible, maintaining consistent density throughout the ocean column. However, the sheer weight of water above any given point creates immense force. Every 10 meters of descent adds another atmosphere of pressure. By 4,000 meters, you're experiencing pressure equivalent to having 40 elephants stacked on top of you. Yet life persists even here, adapted through millions of years to conditions that would seem impossible. These adaptations, shaped by endless darkness and crushing pressure, rival anything found in science fiction, and we've only begun to catalog the strange creatures calling the abyss home. Sunlight penetration in seawater follows predictable physical laws governed by wavelength and water properties. Red light, with longer wavelengths around 700 nanometers, absorbs within the first few meters of ocean water. Orange and yellow wavelengths disappear by 10 meters depth. Green light penetrates deeper, reaching perhaps 50 to 75 meters. Blue light, with shorter wavelengths around 475 nanometers, travels deepest, sometimes reaching 200 meters in exceptionally clear water. This selective absorption occurs because water molecules preferentially absorb certain wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation. Think of it like different colored cars on a highway where red cars must exit immediately, orange cars a bit further on, and only blue cars can travel the full length of the road. The ocean acts as a natural filter, systematically removing colors from the spectrum as depth increases. This is why underwater photographers see everything in shades of blue and green at depth, and why blood appears green underwater, as the red wavelengths that normally give it color have been absorbed. The deepest measured sunlight penetration occurs in the clearest ocean waters, far from coastal sediment and biological activity. In the Sargasso Sea and other oligotrophic regions where nutrient levels remain low and water clarity is exceptional, instruments have detected faint traces of sunlight at depths approaching 1,000 meters. However, this light is so dim that it's measured in individual photons rather than visible illumination. For practical purposes, photosynthesis becomes impossible below 200 meters. Bioluminescence fills the void left by absent sunlight. Approximately 90% of creatures living between 200 and 1,000 meters can produce their own light through chemical reactions. The most common system involves a molecule called luciferin reacting with oxygen in the presence of an enzyme called luciferase. This reaction releases energy as light with remarkable efficiency, converting chemical energy to light energy at rates approaching 100%. Compare this to an incandescent bulb that wastes 90% of its energy as heat. Different species produce bioluminescence for distinct purposes. Some fish, like the anglerfish, use a glowing lure called an esca to attract prey. The light comes from symbiotic bacteria cultured in a special organ on a modified spine extending from the fish's head. The anglerfish can control this bacterial colony, switching the light on or off by restricting blood flow and oxygen to the organ. Other creatures use bioluminescence for camouflage in a strategy called counterillumination. They produce light on their underside matching the faint downwelling light from above, erasing their silhouette when viewed from below. The colors of bioluminescence cluster primarily in the blue and green wavelengths because these penetrate water most effectively. Producing red bioluminescence would be largely useless in an environment where red light doesn't exist naturally and where most creatures have lost the ability to see red wavelengths. However, some deep-sea creatures like the dragonfish have evolved an exception. They produce red bioluminescence and uniquely possess red light photoreceptors, effectively giving them infrared vision in a world where other animals are blind to this wavelength. They can illuminate prey without the prey knowing they're being hunted, like using night vision goggles in absolute darkness. The evolutionary arms race between predator and prey extends even to the invisible spectrum. Organisms in aphotic zones, the regions beyond light penetration, demonstrate remarkable adaptations to perpetual darkness. Vision systems transform dramatically with depth. Many mesopelagic fish develop enlarged tubular eyes pointing upward to detect the faint silhouettes of prey against the slightly brighter surface waters. These eyes contain high concentrations of rhodopsin, a light-sensitive protein that allows detection of single photons. The giant squid possesses the largest eyes in the animal kingdom, reaching diameters of 30 centimeters, roughly the size of a dinner plate. At greater depths, where even bioluminescence becomes scarce, some species abandon vision entirely. Certain deep-sea fish have reduced or absent eyes, reallocating biological resources to other sensory systems. The eyeless shrimp Remicaris exoculata inhabiting hydrothermal vents lacks traditional eyes but possesses a light-sensing organ on its back. This dorsal photoreceptor detects the faint infrared radiation emitted by superheated vent fluids. helping the shrimp navigate the boundary between scalding vent water and frigid ambient water just centimeters away. Mechanoreception becomes crucial in lightless environments. The lateral line system in fish detects pressure waves and water movements through a series of neuromasts, specialized cells containing hair-like structures that bend in response to water displacement. This system provides a kind of touch at a distance, allowing fish to sense approaching predators or prey without physical contact. In complete darkness, this hydrodynamic sense creates a three-dimensional map of the surrounding water, detecting movements several body lengths away. Chemoreception, the ability to detect chemical compounds in water, reaches extraordinary sensitivity in deep-sea organisms. Some species can detect prey chemicals at concentrations of parts per billion, equivalent to detecting a single drop of blood diluted in an Olympic swimming pool. Male deep-sea anglerfish find females by following pheromone trails through the vast darkness. When a male locates a female, he bites into her skin and fuses permanently to her body, becoming a parasitic mate. His circulatory system merges with hers, and he spends the rest of his life as little more than a sperm-producing appendage. This extreme adaptation solves the problem of finding a mate in the largest ecosystem where population densities remain incredibly low. Many deep-sea species exhibit reduced metabolic rates, an adaptation to scarce food resources. With little primary production occurring in aphotic zones, food arrives primarily as marine snow, the constant rain of organic particles and dead organisms drifting down from surface waters. This supply varies seasonally and geographically, creating a feast or famine existence. Creatures adapt through slow growth, delayed maturation, and the ability to survive extended periods without eating. Some deep-sea fish can consume prey larger than themselves and store the meal in expandable stomachs for months. Pressure adaptation requires cellular and molecular modifications. Deep-sea organisms maintain pressure equilibrium between their internal fluids and the surrounding water, eliminating pressure gradients across their bodies. Their cells contain modified proteins with altered amino acid sequences that maintain proper folding and function under extreme pressure. Membranes incorporate specialized lipids that remain fluid despite cold temperatures and high pressure. Gas-filled spaces, like swim bladders used for buoyancy in shallow water fish, are absent or filled with oil and other incompressible fluids. These adaptations are so specific that bringing deep-sea creatures to the surface causes decompression damage. Dissolved gases expand, proteins unfold, and cellular structures fail. The abyss is not merely home to these organisms, but a requirement for their survival. Hydrostatic pressure increases linearly with depth at approximately 1 atmosphere, or 101.3 kilopascals, per 10 meters. This relationship follows from the fundamental physics of fluid columns. Pressure at any depth equals the weight of the water column above that point divided by the area over which it acts. At the ocean surface, we experience 1 atmosphere of pressure from the air above us. At 10 meters depth, we experience 1 atmosphere from the air plus 1 atmosphere from the water, totaling 2 atmospheres. At 100 meters, 11 atmospheres press from all directions. This omnidirectional pressure creates unique challenges and opportunities. Unlike directed force that pushes from one side, hydrostatic pressure acts equally from all directions, preventing organisms from being crushed flat like a pancake. Instead, pressure must be balanced internally. Human lungs, filled with air, would collapse under deep ocean pressure. Deep-sea fish lack air-filled spaces, instead possessing bodies composed primarily of water, protein, and fat, all of which are nearly incompressible. Their bones contain less calcium and more cartilage, making them flexible rather than brittle. The pressure at Challenger Deep exceeds 1,090 atmospheres, approximately 110 megapascals, or roughly 8 tons per square inch. To visualize this, imagine 50 jumbo jets balanced on your fingernail. Despite these conditions, organisms thrive. The snailfish Pseudolippers swirii holds the current depth record for fish, filmed at depths of 7,966 meters in the Mariana Trench. Amphipods, shrimp-like crustaceans, have been collected from even greater depths approaching 11,000 meters. Temperature in the deep ocean remains remarkably stable and cold. Below 1,000 meters, temperature typically ranges between 1 and 4 degrees Celsius throughout the world's oceans. This stability contrasts dramatically with surface waters that fluctuate seasonally from below freezing to over 30 degrees Celsius depending on latitude and season. The deep ocean represents Earth's largest stable environment, a cold, dark reservoir that changes imperceptibly over decades or centuries. This thermal stability has existed for millions of years, providing a constant evolutionary backdrop. Water pressure affects the freezing point of seawater. At the surface, seawater freezes at approximately minus 1.8 degrees Celsius due to dissolved salts. With increasing pressure, the freezing point decreases further. At 4,000 meters depth, seawater would freeze at approximately minus 2.5 degrees Celsius. However, deep ocean temperatures rarely drop below 0 degrees Celsius, keeping the water liquid despite the intense pressure. Interestingly, pressure also affects water's density and compressibility. While water is often described as incompressible, it does compress slightly under extreme pressure. The water at Challenger Deep is approximately 5% denser than surface water due to compression. The speed of sound in water increases with temperature, pressure, and salinity. In the deep ocean, despite cold temperatures, the extreme pressure increases sound speed to approximately 1,550 meters per second, compared to about 1,450 meters per second at the surface. This property creates the sound fixing and ranging channel, a horizontal layer around 700 to 1,000 meters depth where sound waves travel extraordinary distances with minimal attenuation. Whales exploit this acoustic waveguide to communicate across entire ocean basins. A whale song produced near one continent can theoretically be detected thousands of kilometers away near another continent. The deep ocean acts as a vast whispering gallery where sound, denied the ability to travel upward or downward by the physics of refraction, propagates horizontally across global distances. In the realm of eternal darkness, sound becomes the primary means of sensing the remote world. The deep ocean ecosystem operates on fundamentally different energy sources than surface environments. With photosynthesis impossible, most deep-sea communities depend on marine snow, the continuous downward drift of organic material from surface waters. This includes dead phytoplankton, fecal pellets, shed mucus feeding structures, dead fish, and occasional large carcasses. Only about 5% of organic material produced in surface waters reaches the seafloor at depths below 2,000 meters. The rest is consumed, decomposed, or dissolved during the long descent. Marine snow particles drift downward at varying rates depending on size and density. Small particles may take weeks or months to reach the abyssal plain, while large, dense aggregations sink much faster, perhaps reaching bottom in days. During this descent, bacteria colonize the particles, decomposing organic matter and recycling nutrients. A thriving microbial community exists in the midwater, breaking down this falling material and forming the base of the deep-sea food web. Filter feeders in the deep ocean capture marine snow using various strategies. Glass sponges, ancient organisms that can span over a meter and potentially reach ages exceeding 10,000 years, pump water through their bodies to extract organic particles. Sea cucumbers crawl across the abyssal seafloor, ingesting sediment and extracting organic matter like earthworms processing soil. Some sea cucumbers have been observed at densities exceeding 1 individual per square meter in food-rich areas, making them among the most abundant large animals in abyssal environments. Carcass falls create temporary oases of abundance in the food-poor deep ocean. When a whale dies and sinks to the seafloor, it delivers an enormous pulse of organic matter, sometimes 30 tons or more of flesh, bone, and blubber. A predictable succession of organisms colonizes the carcass. First arrive mobile scavengers, sleeper sharks, hagfish, and amphipods that can strip flesh from bones within months. Next come worms, crustaceans, and mollusks that colonize the bones themselves. Finally, specialized bacteria break down the lipid-rich bones, a process lasting decades. A single whale fall can support a unique community for 50 years or more, acting as a stepping stone habitat for specialized species dispersing across the otherwise barren abyssal plain. Hydrothermal vents represent a dramatic exception to the detrital food web. Discovered in 1977 near the Galapagos Islands, these underwater geysers support dense communities based on chemosynthesis rather than photosynthesis. Superheated water, exceeding 300 degrees Celsius, erupts from cracks in the seafloor where seawater has percolated down, been heated by magma, and dissolved minerals from the rock. When this mineral-rich fluid mixes with cold seawater, dissolved compounds like hydrogen sulfide precipitate out, forming dark plumes and chimney structures that can tower several stories high. Chemosynthetic bacteria harness the chemical energy in hydrogen sulfide, methane, and other reduced compounds, converting it to organic carbon much like plants convert light energy to sugars. These bacteria form the foundation of vent communities, either existing as free-floating mats or in symbiotic relationships within animal tissues. The giant tube worm Riftia pachyptila, growing up to 2 meters long, lacks a mouth and digestive system entirely. Instead, billions of chemosynthetic bacteria housed in a specialized organ called a trophosome produce nutrients that sustain the worm. In exchange, the worm's red plume absorbs hydrogen sulfide and oxygen from the water, transporting these compounds to the bacteria. This partnership allows tube worms to thrive in one of Earth's most extreme environments, anchored directly next to superheated vent fluids in absolute darkness. The discovery of these chemosynthetic ecosystems revolutionized our understanding of life's possibilities and suggested that similar communities might exist elsewhere in the solar system, wherever liquid water and chemical energy coincide. Human exploration of the deep ocean began in earnest in the 20th century. In 1960, explorers descended to Challenger Deep aboard the Bathyscaphe Trieste, reaching a depth of 10,911 meters. They spent 20 minutes on the bottom before ascending, becoming the first humans to reach Earth's deepest point. Their historic dive proved that reaching extreme ocean depths was possible and that life existed even there, as they reported seeing a flatfish and shrimp through their small viewport. The technology required for deep ocean exploration is formidable. Submersibles must withstand enormous pressure while maintaining life support for occupants and power for propulsion, lights, and instruments. Most deep diving submersibles use a pressure sphere made of titanium or specialized steel alloys. The sphere shape distributes pressure evenly, preventing weak points where failure might occur. Alvin, one of the most famous research submersibles, can reach depths of 4,500 meters and has made over 5,000 dives since its commissioning in 1964. James Cameron became the third person to reach Challenger Deep in 2012 aboard the Deep Sea Challenger. His solo dive included extensive filming and sample collection using robotic arms. The submersible featured a vertical design, like a torpedo standing on end, that descended and ascended unusually quickly compared to previous deep ocean vehicles. The engineering challenges were immense. Every component, from cameras to thrusters to the lights, required specialized pressure-resistant design. The pressure sphere that protected Cameron had walls over 6 centimeters thick. Remotely operated vehicles explore depths inaccessible or too dangerous for human-occupied vehicles. Nereus, a vehicle developed by Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, could operate in either tethered or autonomous mode and reach Challenger Deep in 2009. It discovered new species and collected samples before being lost to pressure failure at nearly 10,000 meters depth in 2014. The incident demonstrated that even our best technology remains vulnerable to the abyss. Autonomous underwater vehicles operate without tethers, following pre-programmed missions or making autonomous decisions based on sensor data. These vehicles can map the seafloor, measure water properties, and track tagged animals without human intervention. The Seabed Constructor, a survey vessel, deployed multiple autonomous underwater vehicles simultaneously to search for the missing Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, covering over 112,000 square kilometers of seafloor in the Indian Ocean. While the aircraft was never found, the expedition demonstrated the capability for large-scale deep ocean exploration using autonomous systems. Future exploration will likely rely increasingly on these robotic systems. Engineers are developing soft robotics inspired by deep-sea organisms, using flexible materials and structures that can withstand pressure without heavy armored housings. Concepts include swimming robots mimicking jellyfish and octopi, and crawling robots that move across the seafloor like crabs. Some designs use electroactive polymers, artificial muscles that change shape when electrical current flows through them. These biomimetic robots could explore fragile environments like coral reefs and hydrothermal vents with minimal disturbance. As technology advances, the barrier between surface and seafloor becomes increasingly permeable, bringing the mysteries of the abyss within reach. Yet despite these advances, less than 25% of the seafloor has been mapped at high resolution. The deep ocean remains Earth's largest unexplored frontier, holding secrets we've only begun to uncover. The parallels between the winter solstice darkness and the deep ocean darkness reveal fundamental truths about adaptation and survival. Both represent extremes of light deprivation where life must find alternative strategies. During polar winter, terrestrial animals respond with migration, hibernation, or physiological changes. Arctic foxes grow thicker winter coats. Ptarmigan feathers turn white for camouflage in snow. Some mammals enter torpor, dramatically reducing metabolic rate to conserve energy through months without food. Deep-sea organisms face permanent versions of these challenges. Migration isn't an option when darkness is constant, though vertical migration between depth zones allows some species to exploit different resources. Hibernation becomes unnecessary without seasons, but low metabolic rates achieve similar energy conservation. The strategies evolved for abyssal life represent millions of years of refinement in dealing with extreme conditions, while Arctic and Antarctic species adapted their strategies over shorter timescales as ice ages came and went. Both environments demonstrate how absence shapes presence. The absence of light drives evolution toward alternative senses and energy sources. The absence of warmth drives adaptations for heat conservation or metabolic efficiency. These selective pressures create convergent evolution, where unrelated organisms in similar environments develop similar solutions. The tubular eyes of deep-sea fish echo the enlarged eyes of nocturnal land animals. The slow metabolism of abyssal fish mirrors the reduced winter metabolism of hibernating bears. Different branches of the tree of life, separated by hundreds of millions of years of evolution, arrive at similar answers when posed similar questions by their environment. The winter solstice has held spiritual and cultural significance throughout human history. Ancient cultures marked the solstice with festivals, recognizing it as a turning point when the sun's decline reversed and days began lengthening again. The Romans celebrated Saturnalia. Northern European peoples observed Yule. These celebrations acknowledged the hardship of winter while anticipating the return of warmth and abundance. Modern holidays like Christmas and Hanukkah occur near the solstice, continuing this tradition of bringing light and warmth to the darkest time of year. The deep ocean inspires similar wonder mixed with trepidation. Early explorers described it as Earth's inner space, as alien and unreachable as the cosmos. The creatures dwelling there seem designed by science fiction, with impossible anatomies and survival strategies. Yet unlike space, the ocean is accessible. It covers 71% of our planet's surface. Its depths directly influence climate, weather, and the composition of our atmosphere. Understanding the deep ocean is essential for understanding Earth as a system. Climate change affects both solstice and seafloor, though in different ways. Changing atmospheric composition alters the balance of seasons, potentially making winters milder at high latitudes. Meanwhile, the deep ocean absorbs excess heat and carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, acting as a buffer that slows climate change but at a cost. Ocean acidification, caused by dissolved carbon dioxide forming carbonic acid, threatens shell-forming organisms from surface to seafloor. Warming temperatures may alter ocean circulation patterns that deliver oxygen and nutrients to deep communities. As we mark the winter solstice from the surface, we can contemplate the perpetual night below. Both represent extremes of our planetary experience, edges where conditions test the limits of life's adaptability. The longest night above lasts mere hours, a temporary condition reversed by our planet's rotation and orbit. The eternal night below has persisted for hundreds of millions of years, a permanent feature of Earth's largest biome. Yet both are homes to thriving communities that have turned darkness from a limitation into an opportunity. The bioluminescent jellies drifting through midnight waters and the Arctic foxes hunting under winter stars share more than might be apparent. They are survivors at the edge, proof that life finds pathways through even the darkest places. And on that note, we come to the end of our journey through the darkest day and the darkest depths. We've traveled from the astronomical mechanics of the winter solstice down through the ocean's layered zones to the crushing pressures of the hadal trenches. We've seen how light shapes life and how the absence of light creates new evolutionary possibilities. We've explored how ancient adaptations allow creatures to thrive in conditions that would destroy us in seconds, and how the same principles of survival connect polar winters to abyssal plains. The winter solstice reminds us that darkness is temporary, part of a cycle that brings renewal. The deep ocean teaches us that darkness can also be permanent, yet no less alive with possibility. Both offer lessons in resilience, adaptation, and the remarkable tenacity of life on this planet. Thank you for joining me on this exploration. I hope it's given you something to ponder as you drift off to sleep or as you go about your day. If you enjoyed this journey into the midnight deep, please subscribe to the channel for more voyages through the strange and fascinating corners of our world. Until next time, this is Wade Hadley, wishing you clear skies and calm seas, wherever your own journey takes you.